going on, everybody? I just wanted to make a video showcasing the progress I've made on Shaper 3D, which is the CAD software that I use to design the hydroponic gardens. And this is a few HydroCube designs. This kind of showcases like where I started and how I've progressed with this specific design. Before these, I had a computer and an iPad on my iPad I started off learning Shaper 3D, and it had like plenty of other designs, but it broke, and then my computer I redid everything, and then that got stolen. So this is the third set of HydroCubes that I've designed. We're starting from HydroCube 29. So how I do this is whenever I go from like 29 to 30, it's there's a pretty significant design change, and then the V1, V2, V3, V4, V5 are all minor changes to the same design. So as you see here, I've done 29 different variations, and the rest were on my old Mac and then my old iPad, which is broken, but I still have it just in case I could recover all the models from it. So if we start over here on 29, and how I've laid this out is I have the model of the HydroCube, and then behind that is these exploded diagram looking things are the print. Is the HydroCube split up so that you can print it, and then kind of behind it is all the miscellaneous items that relate to the original one. Before I started designing on this iPad, the HydroCube was had much more rounded corners, and then since I had to restart everything for the third time, I figured I'd just start with something completely different, and then went with hard angles. So this is the hole, this is the light stand, and then these are the window panels, or the plexiglass. So basically how I do this is I started with a block and then kind of carved it out, and then hollowed it out. And what I need is a hole to hold the electronics and the water, something to hold the plants, and then something to hold the window panes and then the light. So this is the hole, this is to hold the plant, and I haven't cut a hole in this yet, or I hadn't cut a hole in this on this one. And then this is the light stand, and then over here is where I'll put the light module. And I made the light module and this piece exactly the same, so it all fits. So like you could theoretically put the light module on the bottom, just trying to make it as modular as possible. And then this is the bottom cover, so if you go underneath you'll see kind of the internals. So this is where the pump goes to aerate the water, and then this is where the ESP32 goes right here, and then back here is a slot for a motor driver, which I use to control the lights and the water, or the air, the pump that aerates the water, since they both use 5 volts, and the ESP32 only the out pins are only 3 volts. Right here are the internals. So how I do so basically, alright, so for example, there's a hole that goes through both of these right here. These are all 4 of these are hole for wires, and they come out right over here. So inside there's a wire that goes and then comes out here, and then I put a magnet right here, so that when you drop this on like that, it creates contact for electricity to go through. And then there are also holes that go right here and then out here, and then something that's conductive goes in this spot. I was using a magnet so that you can turn the lights on. And how I do that is I make these little funnels, and then I like subtract that from that, and then it creates a hole inside exactly how I want it. And then this one right here is the air hole, or air funnel, or whatever, I don't know what to call it, but it shoots out. You connect a little air stone right there, and then it shoots and aerates the water via this and that section. So you clip in the air pump right there, it shoots water through there, and then shoots air through there, sorry, and then so you connect the air pump right here, it shoots air up like this and then out there. And I wanted to, instead of just making it like a very short distance, I wanted to make it kind of like a U, because the idea is that this section goes over the water level, so just in case water goes into here, it will have a harder time of coming out of here and ruining the electronics. Although that doesn't work extremely well, but generally the aerator is always on. And then as we move back here, this is how I print it. So I try to print without using any supports, because I just think supports, like any side that is what had needed a support, always looks super ugly. So how I do it is I cut it out, or cut out two sections of the hole. So I try to go along the lines so that you can't really see, like when you print it and put it together, you can't see where the seam is. This took me a really long time, by the way, to figure out how to do, and so I managed to figure something out. And so the hole is printed in two pieces, and then this will be printed on its side like that. And yeah, and then it doesn't need any supports. And then, so that's just this right here. And then for the lights, I was trying it out like this. This was the first version of the printed, how I was going to print out the light stand. If you look closer, you'll see that this is where the wire comes, and then through this one and out that hole. So this is an exploded diagram, so the print would go like that. And I would glue it in place, and I would slide in the panes, and then glue this on top. Alright, so that was the first version. And then I'll go a little bit faster on each one, because basically each one is an improvement on the last. So I'll kind of just go over the improvements. Alright, so on this version, I did a few things. So over here, these are curved, and then I wanted to kind of take the curves out to keep the theme going, so I put it like that. All the internal components are pretty much the same. And then over here, this was, so I actually think I printed this one out. This might have been the first one that I printed. And then up here, this is the light module. So this is my first set of lights ever, and I used LEDs and then just soldered them together, and just modeled a hole for each one, and then it clips in really nicely, and then this just goes boom like that, and then a little screw will go into this, which will have a screw insert, and then the electricity goes through this and then out there. So a few things that I did differently. If you look at this one, it has the magnets that transfer the electricity on this skinny section, and then if you look at this one, I moved it to right here. The only reason I did that was because I was afraid that I wasn't going to get enough contact, and I wanted a bigger surface area. I wasn't planning on leaving it like this. I was planning on figuring out how to make it as sleek as possible and re-put it up here. But since this was the first one I was printing, I wanted to make sure that everything worked well, and like the theory was somewhat on the right path. All right. So that was 30. And then we come to, so after printing this one, I decided to enlarge the HydroCube, and so this one still only has the ESP motor driver and then the aeration for the water, and I wanted to add fans that blew air into the HydroCube and then sucked it out so that you can get airflow since it's completely sealed off. And to do that, I figured that if I made it just a tiny bit bigger, it would be a little bit easier. So if we move to over here, this is the transition from 30 to 31. And I also wanted to do a few design changes that I thought might look a lot better. If you look down here, everything's very straight, and I didn't really like that. So on the next one, I just kind of made it a V just because I thought it looked better. And then yeah. And then I decided, another big design change was I decided to, instead of putting the electronical components directly into the hole like this, I wanted to, I made a module that you put all the components into, which took an extremely long amount of time. So instead of having it on the bottom of the hole, this you could take out. Theoretically, you could like fix whatever needs to be fixed or replace components. And I wanted to see if this was a good route to go. So even though it took a lot of time to figure out how to make everything fit neatly, I just wanted to test out this idea. So that right here is where the ESP32 would go, and this area is where the wireless charging port went, and then these were built to put fans that this one sucked in and then this one sucked out, so it would suck out air and push it out there, and then this one would suck in through there. And then this is to hold the aerator, and I put magnets so that the aerator just clips in. I'll make another video showcasing all of the physical models with all of the electronical components in it, but right now I'm just doing the 3D models. These are just the two motor drivers. I just downloaded these from the internet so that I had a good reference. And then right here are the plugs. So since this comes out completely and it clips back in, I'm going to have another 2 magnets or something that will conduct electricity and put it through the HydroCube. So if you look over here, so this basically goes like that, and boom, and then just clips in like that. And then so you have all the electronical components here, and then you have wires run to these, and then magnets, and then those create contact with the mirroring magnets up there, which then distributes the HydroCube with electricity and power. And then these right here, the fans in and out, like slide into to those, and then push air through the cube up through the side and then out right here, and then out of this right there. So it shoots in through there, out into this, and then on the opposite side it sucks it back out. And then the electricity, I only need two wires to power the lights. One goes, the positive goes on this side, and then the negative goes up on that side. And right here are kind of the internals, kind of like how I was talking about the wires. So this is the air, one of the air funnels. There should be another one on this side, but I lost it or accidentally deleted it. Something that I also forgot to mention on this one, I added the humidifier, and the humidifier plugs in right here. It's an ultrasonic humidifier, and then it shoots up this funnel and meets up with the air inlet. So the inlet that pushes air in, that way it'll push, because usually ultrasonic humidifiers, you need a fan to kind of make it spread around. So this shoots it, the water, the atomized water particles into that, and then into this right here, and then the air pushes it out and makes it spread all around here. Which, by the way, this model did not work at all. So I played around with a bunch of different stuff and finally made something work, but I still have a little ways to go to make it work correctly. Over here, I just wanted to showcase again how I make the funnels. So if it's like a complex shape that I have to do, I try to recreate the shape outside, and then I line it up with where I need to, where it needs to be, and then I delete. There's an option on, like, you can delete that area so it creates a hole, and actually you can see how it works right over here. So this is the air intake, like that. It actually will come from here. So it comes out here, it pushes air in, and then the ultrasonic humidifier atomizes the water right here, pushes those water particles up, and then the idea is that the air will, they'll just ride with the air that's being pushed through this hole, and then it all comes out here and hopefully creates humidity and airflow. Again, this is how I split up the garden to print. Kept finding on ways how to make it better and better and make the seams less obvious to almost not obvious at all. Over here, how I do it is I color code it, since a lot of parts have to fit together really nicely. And to do that, you sometimes, with my Ender 3, I have to like take away like 0.1 millimeters or something, or a few like, I just have to take away, like, to make a contact I have to make one side smaller. So I use colors to indicate how much I took away. So yellow might indicate like 0.2 millimeters less. So basically, like, I just go like this, and then mine is 0.2. And then that way the bottom will fit nicely without extruding or anything. And then back here, kind of how I just wanted to showcase how I make sure all the components fit in the pieces. Like, for example, before I started building the bottom that held all the components, I needed to make sure the fans fit correctly, so I print out a bunch of these different sizes to see what held the fan in the best place. And then once I did that, I inserted this design onto this, and you can see that right here and right here. So I knew all the dimensions were good, and all of these kind of do that. So then we go on to the next one, which is 31V2. Let's see, I don't think I did very many changes to the insert. At this point, so how this clips in, I really didn't want to use screws to do this in, because I just wanted it to be easy to take out and do whatever you want, and I wanted to just make it stick or stay in place with magnets. So all of these slots are places to put in the magnet, and then mirrored, and then all of them are mirrored here, and so you just clip it in like that. And I put a whole bunch, and I literally didn't need, like, I put way too much, but I wasn't sure how much I needed to hold, because I didn't know how heavy it was going to be with the air pump and all the electronics. So I just put a bunch, and it ended up being way too much. But I knew that I didn't want the screw inserts, and I wanted to delete those. Yep, so this is probably not too many changes from that to this, but let's see. I can't remember exactly what I changed, but each of these is a different variation of, or an improved variation of the following one, as I said before. I think I know. So alright, so something that I wanted to do differently over here, you'll see that, so the idea was to have on the light, let's see, on the light stand, to make it clip in easily, what I wanted to do was put little like extrusions over here, and then wanted it so that when you put it on, it kind of like held like that, so it clips into right there. And that whole idea didn't work too well. I bet you I could have like made it work, but I knew that I probably was gonna find a different way to do it, or like something like I didn't know what I wanted yet, but I wanted just to start testing out something to see if it worked. And I actually think that this one did not work because the edge was a little bit too big and it didn't clip in. So in this one, I kind of rounded it out a little bit, which actually didn't, this one doesn't hold anything, so that didn't work very well. And then I also rounded out the edges on this a little bit. Let's see. So if we look in here, yeah, it doesn't look like I did too much different or changed too many things here. The reason the inside is all like triangle-y like that is because I wanted to try to print this whole hole on the printer with not in two pieces but all as one without any supports. And I thought that if I angled all the overhanging parts a little bit, that it would be able to do it. I'm sure that if I angled it more, it would be able to do it, but I definitely did not angle it enough over here, and you can barely even tell that there's these features when you print them out. And but I didn't want to angle it anymore because I didn't think it was going to look good. So I just stuck with the printing it in two parts. Alright, so if we move on to the next one, okay, so the next one, on this one, I filled up the entire thing and then took note of what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to take away to make it as simple as possible. So if you compare these two, this one is much simpler than this one. So I took away, obviously, I figured out that I didn't need all of these magnets. I just needed one on each corner. And then I took these away right here, the screws, and simplified these right here because I thought they looked kind of cool right here, but it wasn't very necessary, so I just simplified them. And then these are funnels to hold the wires because there's a bunch of wires that go from the ESP32 to the motor drivers and to the fans and to everything else. So I wanted to make it look super neat, and so I put a bunch of holes that I could funnel the wires through, which ended up not being a great idea. And I've gotten into PCB design, so I'm just designing my own controller, which means I'll get to eliminate basically all of those wires and save like hours of work putting them together. Alright, so for improvements for the garden, okay, so on this one I tried starting to work with the humidifier a little bit. So if we take a look at the humidifier. So this one, the humidifier kept flooding and it wasn't doing anything. And I don't know why I thought, but if I put it more flat, that it would help create a better seal. Kind of the water would just push up. It didn't work, but I also put a little slit here because basically the humidifier only needs a little bit of water on top because it vibrates and then aerates a thin film of water and atomizes it. And since I didn't want it to flood, I put a little slit here with the idea of moderating the water level. And anytime any water would go in, it would just seep out of here, but it'll keep it wet enough for water to atomize. I don't think that it worked very well, but it was, I don't know, it was just R&D. And yeah, so let's see some changes in the light. This was a quick design, but I thought it looked really bad, so then I did this just really quickly. Just, I don't know, it looks a little cooler than that. But I'm going to eventually cover the lights with something to protect it from the elements in the HydroCube. Alright, so then we go to, so that was 31V3 and then 31V4. Pretty major design improvement. I put a port in the hole to moderate water level, and I thought that it looked a little bit better with the port. And that, let's see. Looks like I brought in this side a little bit more. You see how it's carved out there and not carved out there. Probably to even things out. Yeah, basically the whole idea is to, even if it's a very minor improvement, but like it would make a difference, or it would make everything simpler and easier to build or easier to use or more robust, I always did it on the next model. Yeah. Alright, so for that was that. The big thing was just the port to moderate water levels. And then for 31V5, I believe, oh, it didn't, so. What I was doing here, what I was doing from this one to that one, was I was changing, how the humidifier needs wire. I mean, it uses, like, you need to power it. So I was just changing the internal way the wires went through the wall to make it, because it was just so hard to do, and to because you got to remember that this is like that big, and I'm like digging in or trying to get wires to go into very tiny holes and funnel them through the garden. But let me see if I could find it. So yeah, I'm basically trying to funnel it through there. And also, one of the ideas that I had was, like, kind of, because the hardest part was just getting the wires to go through there and to make sure everything was in place. So I figured that if I printed out a little, like, insert, kind of pre-wired everything and then clipped it in there, that it would make it easier, and then all I would have to do is wire it down into there. But the hardest part would already be done. But that ended up being, like, not working too well. And then actually, something over here is I put this here, and I was going to put a sponge to kind of restrict how much water got into the humidifier. And I actually think that it worked all right, but it wasn't consistent and reliable. So over here, just playing around with more different ideas on how to do the humidifier. Kind of took out some material from the bottom to save print times. I actually rounded these corners because I thought it looked better. And that, and then after this, I decided to, so that was 31V5, and then in 31V6, so a lot of issues that I would have with this was I couldn't get, like, all the contacts needed to be perfect, and everything needed to be perfect and fit perfectly, to be able to work, and putting it together took an extreme amount of time and was extremely difficult. And it seemed like it was just slowing me down. So what I decided to do was re-put the components onto the bottom. And I also did this, first of all, it was a huge time saver. I would have way less problems because I would have much less contacts to worry about. And I was also having a bunch of issues with the air not lining up correctly with the hole, and it would kind of get jammed, and it wouldn't send air through correctly. And it was very unreliable. Although I do like, what I do like about this, it was just really cool. Like, you can pull it out and see all the electronics, and it looked really good. So I'm definitely going to retry a version of this once I have everything working correctly, but it wasn't worth it. I needed something much simpler to make sure all the components even work correctly to start kind of like modifying how they went in. So over here, the only thing that goes on here is the wireless charger, and then it'll have 2 ports to power this. But for right now, I'm just going to use a USB cable, miniature USB cable that goes through here and connects to the ESP32, which it goes right there. And then another reason that I decided to go back is that I thought that I was going to have much better contact for the fans. So the inlet fan will like literally be up like on this section right here, and then the outlet fan will go on the bottom right here. So the only 2 electronical components are going to be the wireless charger and the fan that sucks everything out. And so at this point, I just decided that this is going to be the last one that I do like this before I get my PCB situation figured out, because I was getting to the limits of what I can do by just mixing and matching a bunch of boards to make everything work. 1, it took up a lot of time, and then 2, it took up an insane amount of space, and I really wanted to combine everything and then make a nice small board that fit right here instead of literally fitting over everything. And that way I could like put 2 huge fans, blower fans, that will push air in and out, because the fans I was trying to use just wasn't work. They weren't compressing air, and I was trying to work within a very small volume, and I was finding some components, but if I like made my work volume just a little bit bigger, I would find there's a much broader selection of components and fans that are actually meant for blowing and compressing air. And a big thing that I also changed on this one was, before this, you just put a planter pot right there, put a little sponge in it, put 1 seed in it, and then put it in water and it'll grow. And then I decided that this is an option, but another option I want to give is having kind of a bigger grow volume. Like, obviously the whole thing is like a really small grow volume, but it's kind of meant to be a toy. It's not like meant to do anything, but the whole point is to like grow plants and then test out different environments by setting different variables, whether that's light, like airflow, temperature, humidity, or even gas content and stuff. But anyways, instead of doing this, I went to something where you can cut out a square sponge and then put in a bunch of seeds, and it looks a lot better. And I just had fun with the holes at the bottom. No real reason. I just needed a way for water to flow freely through. So yeah, and then we get to the newest models, which I haven't even started to print. And so over here, I changed the ports. And then I kind of added a little thingy over here. And this is 32. This is like the next level of hydro gardens. And I really want to make a cool little thing that looks very futuristic and is very functional and reliable. So instead of having individual window panes, it's going to be like one big thing, and then there's going to be like micro wires that go up and down, powering the lights and the sensors on top. But I took away these pillars right here. So I think it looks pretty cool if I visualize it. So yeah, basically that's what it looked like. So pretty neat. I have a lot to figure out to make that work. And then 32.1, I made these things bigger. I don't know if I like that, but I didn't think, I don't know. I think that I'll grow to like these, and it'll just make the design a little bit more interesting than just a very repetitive, like, I don't know. And then over here, I made these just a little bit smaller and then gave it kind of a lip. And this is the most recent design. So yeah, basically this is kind of the process I went through and how I come up with designs. And these are just a few of the HydroCubes that I lined up to kind of give you an example of like how I think about things and how I like work through problems and how the design evolves over time. I think with these, like building a product like this, like 2 years ago when I started it, I was just really set on I already have like a good idea, like it's gonna be really easy, just like I already know exactly what I didn't know what it was gonna look like, but I thought that I'd be able to very quickly settle on a design. And I found that that's not at all the case. Like it takes like hundreds and hundreds of iterations to finally get on something that looks good and works and is functional and reliable. So yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it. If you've made it this far, really appreciate it. This is like my first like legit explanation video. I'm gonna do little videos kind of explaining PCB design, which I literally have no idea how to do. It's not going to be trying to inform anybody at all. It's just going to try to like show you the process, like how I process through issues or how I work through problems without knowing anything. So just kind of like, yeah. Yeah, pretty much it. Cool, yeah. If you're still watching, subscribe and like and comment any questions. Thanks. Peace.